Um, I'll play MC, Yvette. Is that okay? Just real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Please take it away.
Hi, everybody on Zoom and in person here at Foothill and in person at the Anza. Welcome to our industry panel here with Nomad Futurist, the organization which Jody is a part of, as well as 4 amazing guest speakers. Thank you all so much for taking time to be with us today. So this is being recorded because we wanted to be a resource for anybody who can't make it today. We'll be posting it to our website and then sharing the link out as well to anybody who RSVP'd. My name is Sophia Kim. I work with the Science Learning Institute at Foothill College. And my counterpart at De Anza, Yvette Campbell. Do you want to come off mute real quick, Yvette, and introduce yourself? Or maybe doesn't work. Well, Yvette Campbell over at the MESA Center at De Anza is representing, we've been working together on this collaboration to bring this panel to help students learn more about the world of digital infrastructure. So I'll just turn it over to you, Jody, and you can take it from here.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. So excited you're all on the panel with us to learn more, and we're excited to talk to you more about what our industry is. So we have a couple of very amazing speakers today for you. We have Phil Koblence, who is one of our co-founders at the foundation, and he'll tell you a little bit more about what the Nomad Futurist Foundation is. We have Anahita Mouro, John Bonczek, and Indigo Pinto to kind of share with you this incredible industry that we all rely on our daily lives. So Phil, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Jody. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us, inviting us to this. This is incredible and unique for us. First time we've ever done this. So forgive any weirdness about it. It's weird for us too. So you guys are literally in my house right now. That's how crazy this is. My name is Philip Koblence. I co-founded the Nomad Futurist Foundation with Nabil Mahmoud. Our journey actually started as a podcast. We professionally, we're in the digital infrastructure data center business. And what we recognized going to conferences was that the folks in our industry kept on getting older and older. And there's a stat that we throw out that, 40% of our industry has been in the industry for 20 years or more. So as an industry, we are at the precipice of this, kind of mass retirement. So what we started out to do, as evidenced by my awesome microphone, is we started out just to have a podcast. The idea in 2020, when we met, was let's start a podcast where we interview all of the interesting people in our industry, in the hopes that their stories, because all of them kind of fell into it. Nobody, when growing up, said they wanted to be in the digital infrastructure or critical infrastructure or data center business. Certainly not in my generation. And let's interview them about their stories, nothing commercial, in the hopes that something about their backgrounds would resonate with the younger generation. And fast forward, a couple years, we decided to try to do something a little bit more active, and we founded the Nomad Futurist Foundation, whose mission it is to essentially allow people that don't otherwise know about our industry, even though they use it, you guys use it constantly. We're using it right now. And in the hopes that we can make it clear that this industry needs you. It needs diverse voices. It needs new talent to displace a lot of the folks that have been here since the beginning. As an industry, we started in kind of late 90s, early 2000s. So, we're pretty early on, but you guys probably hear all about the cloud and AI and all these things. And all of that has an entire industry behind it. All of that data that you use on a regular basis, it resides in a data center environment. And that's really just the concept that this industry exists, and some of the excitement that caused us to be so, kind of gravitate towards it, is what we're trying to set forth. So one quick question, and I don't know if the moderators can assist, but does anybody know the date that the iPhone came out? That date. Does anybody in the audience out there know what date, what year the iPhone came out? Anyone, please. I can answer. 2010. Close. It's 2007. This is a Trivial Pursuit question. You will get it. It's 2007. So I think by and large, we're told that we don't make memories for the first 3 years, right? So if you were born after 2003, you don't really know of a world in which the iPhone and all of that digital information was at your fingertips. I grew up in a world, I was born in 1978. I grew up in a world where the phone was not something I was, pathologically addicted to the way my kids are, who are 7 and 11. And so you guys all grew up with this device in your hand where you had instantaneous access to information, and you were connected and you were leveraging apps and games and Roblox and Minecraft and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and Zoom, which ever since the pandemic has been, if you learn nothing else from this thing, this is how business is done now. We're all just living in these little boxes. I live in this little rectangle. I can't believe it myself. So, what we want to uncover to you is that, as you're growing up, this infrastructure has just worked, and it wasn't always that way. Fairly recently, before really the iPhone, but certainly in the late 90s, before the internet, things were a lot more static, and the world was a lot larger than it is today. And in order to build that industry, it took people kind of recognizing what the internet was. And there are all these elements, but all of the data that you create resides in a data center. So if you guys have never been in a data center, you will get some exposure to that today. One thing that has been in a data center is your data. Every one of your searches, every time you do something with that phone, if it's, a text message or an email or a DM, or, a TikTok or a Snapchat. I'm trying to think of what kids are using these days. Who knows? I should have invited my kids to this panel. All of that stuff travels to a cell tower or from your computer over, whatever internet connectivity you have in your home or in your classroom, to a data center that is probably, closer to you than you think. They're in every community now. There are some areas that are larger than others, and that's really what we're trying to bring to you. So I'll stop talking for a bit and turn things over to my panel. We have a spectacular panel, as Jody alluded to before. We have Anahita Mouro from a tiny company. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Google. It's one with 100 zeros. I'm not sure what they do. She could probably explain it to you. We have Indigo Pinto, who is from Constructiv and does, a lot of the construction associated with building these buildings. And we have JB himself, John Bonczek from 1547 Realty. So we have, someone that has been at the forefront for the entirety of the existence of this industry, that has seen it from birth until now, where, the digital world kind of encompasses everything we do on a daily basis. Difficult to escape it. So I just want them to initially share their stories. Let's start, I suppose, with Anahita, if you don't mind introducing yourself and just telling us about who is Anahita? What are you doing here?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Anahita Mouro. I'm a senior program manager, global lead with Google data center quality team. I've been with Google about 7 years now, and I've seen quite an astronomical explosion of growth, if you will, within a short span of time. So it's been a very fascinating journey in the digital infrastructure, and seeing how every time you think, oh, we have doubled or tripled what we have built, when a few years later you'll get surprised that, oh, well, that was nothing. We are just gonna do it again many, many times bigger and larger. So the speed of change is very fascinating in the digital infrastructure, technical infrastructure domain. And I think hopefully for a younger generation, the speed is exciting. A little bit about myself. Before Google, I was in aerospace and defense manufacturing. I was the head of quality for the plant, different regions I was managing. And before that, I was in medical devices. And before that, I was in consumer products. So I've seen multiple industries, and I've kind of touched different, what you may hear, mission critical. So mission critical really means that things cannot fall apart, because if it does, something really bad is going to happen. So like, you don't want an airplane falling down, or you don't want a heart defibrillator stop working. And for data centers, you don't want not to have internet. So we want the 24/7, everything needs to be running and working. So it's a very high level of availability and reliability, which is kind of what my team supports and make sure that happens. And maybe pretty shortly, like kind of for the students, my background, I have an electrical engineering control system degree, and I also have master in art computational engineering, which is this kind of weird, fancy, kind of interdisciplinary program in UC Irvine, between different departments, from computer science to robotics, engineering, and multimedia art. So how I ended up in Google, it's a long journey, don't have time for that, but very interesting. I think your career takes you different paths that you have not foresee, and I'm hoping that our panel is really helping you understand that you may not know exactly where you want to go, but as you're capturing information and acting as a sponge, you can pivot and find your career's direction as you go.
Oh, listen to that. If you can dream it, you can do it. Indigo.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Indigo. As Phil introduced me earlier, I'm from a small company, literally small company called Constructiv. I am a senior project manager there. We specialize in data center construction management. My background is in mechanical engineering. And Phil, you're trying to make us look old out here. I was only in high school when the iPhone came out. So it's a little bit closer to me as far as the
Have you seen my head?
trying to be
I
more of a
can't make you
bridge.
look older than I already. I mean, come on. I can't hide it.
Well, I hope to help you guys be that bridge and show you a closer journey as far as like how I got into data centers. I'm still fairly new to the industry myself. I came from mission critical, just like Anahita. My background was in medical, so I built hospitals. So I went from one side of the spectrum as far as life saving to I can't live without internet, and went to data centers. Just to show you guys that here is a way that we can actually bridge over and have those kind of skills.
Amazing. Mr. Bonczek.
Yes, hello. And I guess am I the elder states person?
You know what?
on this
Again,
call?
with that hairline, you can pass for much younger.
Yes, but my hairline might be different than yours, but I'm sure if yours grew out, it'd be probably less gray.
That's the reason
than-
it's so short. It's
than-
because I'm not growing it out.
than mine is. But yeah, you talked about 78. Yeah, I'm 73, so I knew quite a bit of a world without cell phones and devices, and I played Pong when that was what gaming was when I was a child. And I guess in my career, I got lucky. So I'm John Bonczek. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for 1547 Critical Systems Realty. We operate 8 properties across the data center industry today. And I say across the industry because our properties vary in terms of what they do. Our focus really on several of our buildings is more on the type of data centers that act more as the hubs for the interconnection of the content, where carriers all converge. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much of it, but we could speak to the breadth of the type of opportunity that exists in the data center industry and the types of properties that are most important. You can compare them to, again, without going down too much of a rabbit hole. You think of an Amazon distribution center. They have their big warehouses in certain places. They have distribution centers that are local that make Prime available. In the data center space, there's facilities and properties like that also exist, where the content that you're using every day sits at the edge in one of our facilities, and the stuff that you might not be using so much is sitting in a multi-million square foot, multiple gigawatt data center. And I'll show you a little bit of a data center here. Well, but I should have the opportunity to walk around. I figure we do most of the speaking part before I start walking around in case the video gets choppy. I might be in a noisy area.
We also don't want anyone to throw up while they're looking at you.
That's true.
Wiggle around.
I don't have a proper gimbal for my iPhone. I am on my iPhone, which was created in 2007. This version obviously was not. But I will be walking around with my iPhone to show you a bit of a data center and what goes on in and through it. But what I'd like to say is I kind of got lucky in stumbling into this industry. I have a telecom background in both sales and operations and engineering. And I did some years with AT&T and Verizon, and then a couple of CLECs, and I had a friend who had joined this company called Telex, and I had never heard of it, didn't know what it was, and met with some folks there, and they were starting this interconnection business in a carrier hotel known as 60 Hudson Street in New York. And if anybody wants to look that up, it is one of the most interconnected facilities in the world, where a significant percentage of the content that flows to and through the East Coast of the United States into Europe flows through that building. And we created a model where we sold small incremental data center space, which is really now called co-location, and started connecting the world through it. And I say I got lucky because, I'd never set out to be in this industry. Didn't know what it was when I graduated college. Didn't know what it was through the first several years of my career. But here I am. And I want to say, anybody here listening, interested in this space, you're also very lucky, because you have the opportunity to learn about what it is. And I look at my kids who are, one in college and one about to go in, and I'd like them to look at industries that are future-proof, somewhat protected from things like AI, and being replaced by AI. And the beautiful thing about this data center, the digital infrastructure space, is I think about it all the time, and I can't imagine a world where it is not going to continue to be critical to everything that we do, from calls like this, from our entertainment, streaming movies at home, from our banking. The whole financial world flows through digital infrastructure, and it's only getting bigger. And AI, while replacing certain things in adjacent industry, it's not replacing the need for physical infrastructure. It's compounding it. So the need for the type of space that we're in continues to grow. We continue to get old. Not as many people, or enough people who need to manage this space, are coming into it. And what's great, even on this panel, the three of us show the different opportunities within this space. As Chief Revenue Officer, I run a sales and marketing team. I have a great team of professionals who come from different backgrounds, but focus on doing their piece of their job for digital infrastructure. So there's sales opportunities, there's marketing opportunities, business development. Then there's the hands-on here. We're a relatively small company of about 100 people. About 60 of them are operations folks who work physically in the data centers, physically managing what goes on in these spaces. And all of the rest would be some form of sales, marketing, back office, financial. I mean, their data centers have become their own real estate asset class. That is a huge investment opportunity for folks with lots of money who want to put it into a growing asset. All of the opportunities available to folks in this industry just continue to grow. So, yeah, I would say hopefully that there's a lot of learning that is going to take place on this call. You take advantage and consider yourself lucky that this is something that you could start to look into and develop a career path.
And one of our goals, I could listen to you talk all day. One of our goals as part of the Nomad Futurist Foundation is to essentially be the connective tissue of this industry to students that might not know even where to start, but might have some level of interest. As John mentioned, it goes across, it's cross vertical, right? There's sales and marketing, there's finance, there's legal. So there are your ability to, use your, creative mind. And there's also technological engineering, obviously, project management and so forth on the construction side. It's really endless. So, it is one of those unique industries where you can really kind of follow your passion and really participate in it off the bat. We've spoken a lot. I wonder if it makes sense to see if anyone has any questions about what this industry is, why it might be relevant to you. Don't be shy. We don't bite. Well, John does, but besides John, nobody bites.
We've got a question from Samuel here in the room.
Questions. One question I keep hearing I say construction, and I come from I've done a construction company, so I'm trying to see how that relates, really.
Yeah.
Are you talking about as far as like building buildings, or
Sure. So the question
Yeah.
is, and this is, I guess, a question to the panel. It's definitely not a question to me, but just to reiterate, the question is, what do you guys mean by construction? Like, how is that relevant to say, the traditional, besides the hat? Yes, you
I'm going to
guys
show you.
hat.
I'm going to start walking while we're talking, and we have a lot of construction going on. We build buildings,
Yeah.
some from the ground up. This one in particular that I'm walking through right now, this was a partially a warehouse. It was a multi-purpose building. I am literally putting on my hard hat because I am about to walk into a hard hat area, and I'm going to show you one of the data halls that's under construction, and I'll show you what it looks like before. Oh, and if you want to see what a very highly paid salesperson does,
Please. Oh, Joe. Amazing.
But yeah, we're going to go through what's called a man trap. Joe's using the stone lock. I don't need to do mine. But like, if you guys also want to continue to talk while I'm walking through here until I get to a certain
This is the
part of
part
the
where I
building.
think if somebody stares at John's screen, they might actually throw up. Indigo, maybe you can add something to it since you are directly in construction. But in terms of site selection and the crossovers between a kind of traditional construction understanding and what it takes for a data center.
Sure. So a lot of those processes are pretty much the exact same. We've done things from the ground up as well as doing fit outs, like taking an existing building and refitting and refurbishing it into being a data center. So that's where I was saying, as far as that interconnection of skills, these are where those can be applied for sure.
And if you think about oh, please, Anahita.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in, maybe just think about it. I mean, we were laughing, our team, no one would think that Google is one of the largest construction companies in the world with the scale of what we are building, but we are, and similar our partners, Facebook and Amazon, you don't know them as construction companies, but we technically can be. So you kind of walking through the process, maybe in a short span of time, you buy the land, you have to make sure your fiber networks are coming to your land. So you have the under the sea kind of networks, that fibers that you're pulling, and then they have to get connected to your wherever you are, and then the construction really starts. You have to flatten your land, you have to do a lot of like geotechnical analysis, so you have a lot of team to make sure, okay, are we building where we should be building, the soil condition, etc. And then you put concrete on, you put the shells ready, and then you have to kind of build, then you have some kind of a empty unit ready, a lot of other functions need to come. You need cooling, you need power systems, you have all of your controls. So it's all of these need to be done properly before you can even just talk about cloud, because you need a functioning, like a skeleton, if you will, of the body before then the data can get connected. You bring the servers, you bring the machines, etc. So the construction takes quite a long time. You may have like some companies within like 8-9 months, or maybe shorter, to 2 years of construction that is really needed for any data center.
And if you think about it in terms of like the traditional characteristics of building a building, you have the walls and all that stuff. You have power, you have cooling. You need some critical infrastructure, even if you're building a commercial building, right, for life safety systems, et cetera. In the data center, those things are at an order of magnitude maybe larger and or more important. And maybe overall they're not necessarily the tallest buildings. They tend to be 1 to 3 stories, just given the weight loads of all of the infrastructure. But it's a really, really complementary skill set. And if you think about commercial real estate being disrupted by hybrid work and the pandemic, and maybe the construction industry being impacted somewhat, in light of that, the data center industry is desperate for people in construction to help deal with the huge onslaught of demand. But I'll turn it back over to John, who's staring at an empty room.
Yep.
John.
Yep. So this
Phil,
is
sorry. It looked like the MESA Anza group had a question. Maybe
Oh,
we fill that real
sorry.
quick?
Yeah, please.
Awesome. Hello. I was wondering if you wanted to get a job on like physical site. I think you said there's like around 60 workers on site. what qualifications or what would you do in college in order to get to that level and so you can get the job when you apply?
I think that I would probably put that into Google. So I think we should ask our friend Anahita.
Sure. So different phases, right? So let's say we have a full 24/7 operation crew, which are growing. Obviously, we are all over the world. Any country, most countries you can think of, we are there. So the operation teams, you need a lot of different skill set, from the technician side, on the electrical side, mechanical side, the controls, and then the maintenance, reliability, and then you keep kind of like, you have the engineers on site that they need to troubleshoot some of the issues, and then you have the facility managers, you have the operations management, and then that's just on the operations side to make things work, and then they need to be in contact if there's a reliability issue, the site reliability, the hardware operations team, the networking team. It's a very large operation team that just needs to, for one location. And then on the construction side, you have a lot of folks that will be all the different stages, from the execution side of it. You have the cost control teams, you have the engineering execution teams, you have the program managers, kind of that's on the, before they build, there's a lot of large crew that they need to be involved.
Yeah, I'd say from my perspective, honestly, there is no specific focus. I mean, data centers are incredible in that from an entry level standpoint, if you have a good work ethic and you can show up, a lot of the training to be an entry level data center technician at a site that's, in your, locality, is fairly low. I mean, as someone that grew up, presumably born after 2007, you've been working with the stuff that lives in these data centers your entire life. So if you have an interest in actually doing it, and a lot of the onboarding, there's such a fervor for people to come in and help on the operations side. We need to staff a lot of these places 24/7. So you might initially start out, with training, and then, an overnight position might be, the hardest one to fill and the easiest one to start with. But there's a lot of on the job training. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to do once we launch the Nomad Futurist Academy to try to, give you that kind of skill set, and then put you together with internships and apprenticeships, et cetera. But, if I were talking for Mr. Bonczek, who just looks amazing in that hat, I have to say, I think he would say, and I'll let him say it, that it doesn't really take a specific focus as a high school student or a college student to get an entry level position and enter a data center as an on-site technician.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what I would do if I was interested in getting into this industry, seek an internship. Look for data center companies in your area that are hiring for interns, and go learn more about it hands-on. And we hire interns, of course, without any experience whatsoever. And it's a great opportunity for us to educate folks. And I've seen in the past us actually hire folks who start as interns, and then they grow within the company in whichever part of it they'd like to. And as I was saying, walking through this data hall here that's under construction, for the gentleman that asked about construction, there are several trades working in here at the same time, mechanical and electrical, and the amount of engineering that has gone into just designing what right now is a raw about 15,000 square foot space, and is going to turn this into a pretty high dense data center environment with over 4 megawatts of power and cooling delivered to it, is astronomical. A couple of years worth of work before we got to the point where we, for all intents and purposes, I'll say breaking ground. But the stuff that's happening right now is putting conduit in place for fiber and electrical distribution, relocating some water lines to accommodate the design. There is water in data centers, believe it or not. Actually, it's not usually there. The pre-action fire suppression systems are water-based, but there's multiple different trades. I mean, we go outsourced for a lot of our contractors. Meal Electric, you'll see their boxes all over here. Tons of opportunity for electrical installers and electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, but then also general business degrees. If you have a general business degree and you want to get into this space, get an internship. You could get into sales, marketing, and business development side. If you have a finance degree, an accounting degree, we have plenty. A good portion of our company is on the financial and accounting side.
And I think that one of the things, we try to stress, and really that's the point of us talking to the school, is that, it might be intimidating to go knock on the door of a local data center, which is like a windowless building in your community. But if you're interested in figuring out how to get in, reach out to us. We're totally accessible, and we will connect you with the big scary people like Mr. Bonczek, who, as he was talking about internships, it sounds like you don't have to go that far to see, how that came to reality, because that's how we got Indigo.
Exactly. I was going to say, I'm a pure product actually of the data center, not really data center, but more so going into STEM. I would say that internships are the best way to go. They're a great way to get in the door, give you full experience. Join a lot of those organizations I'm sure you may have on your site, like ASME, IEEE, these kind of professional organizations, and of course the Nomad Futurists. When we get our academy going, these are great ways to network with these companies to get those internship and co-op experiences, and it really can put you in front. I highly recommend those opportunities.
Look at this deep dive into power distribution units on the right. Oh my God. So
And if
that's
I
very
could
good,
just
Phil,
chime in really
recognizing
quickly. One of the questions Sophia just posed in the chat is, if a building is a data center, how do you know that it's a data center? And John, you also, when you were showing the site, you mentioned, the amount of power that goes in. And I'm hoping the panelists can kind of help orient everyone. What is the amount of power? Like, what does power mean when it is about a data center? And like, how does that compare to, let's say, the power that you're using on a typical day in your house?
Yeah.
Just to orient everyone.
So your average home might have, 100 amp or 200 amp service for the entire home. And if you want to equate that into watts or kW, that today can go into, I'll show you a data cabinet that has the capability of consuming more power than you have in your home in a single cabinet. Single cabinets can be upwards of 100 kW worth of power going into them, with multiple types of cooling technology required to keep them cool. I just showed you some of what you saw in this room was power distribution and duct work that went up to the roof where our cooling units are. And those cooling units push air down into the raised floor. It's going to get a little loud in here, but we're going up into a raised floor data center environment where there are some active cabinets. These cabinets in here run at about 20 kilowatts per cabinet. I promise you that's more than you have being consumed in your home today, unless all three of your sisters and your mother are using their hair dryer or their Dyson Airwrap all at the same time.
Are you suggesting that I can't be the one using a hair dryer, John? Oh, cool.
I am suggesting still that you do not need a Dyson Airwrap for your hairdo. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. It's a little loud in here. When you get into an environment like this, a lot of it is about cooling. So you see the number of cabinets in here. This is probably about 1 megawatt worth of power consumption in just 2 aisles of cabinets. Cold air is being forced up through the floor tile, and we use what's called hot aisle containment. So the containment goes up and delivers the hot air back into the ceiling. Ceiling is just a plenum that returns out hot air back into the cooling units and back down as cool air. So just think about all these different elements of what's happening in the data center and all the different requirements there are for engineering and for actual maintenance of all this equipment that happens here. So we didn't really talk about maintenance. We have folks on site that are constantly doing maintenance on equipment here to keep the space up and running.
And I think it's a good point. It continues to there is an endless onion that can be peeled of the involvement of various people in making sure the data center continues to purr. To answer the first question, how do you know if a building is a data center? You really don't. I think they tend to be, there's some, windowless buildings out there, but there's also a lot of retrofits where a data center might exist what looks like a standard office building. I see a question from the audience. Working in data center is basically similar with networking engineering. Am I wrong? I'm going to start with that one saying networking happens within a data center. So there's no doubt that, networking is a sub kind of industry within the data center. It is by no means the exact same thing, but data centers are paperweights without, the network that connects them all. But I will open that to the panel to see if anyone can prove wrong the concept of data center is the same as network engineering. Anyone?
Network engineering certainly does happen to and through, and interestingly, timing is good. I guess
We're going to the meet me
about
room. Are you going to the meet me room?
One of the two building meet me rooms right here.
So
And
just
Anahita,
just
you
give you.
also wanted to.
Oh, Anahita, please.
Yeah, I think in my previous answers, I was trying to kind of paint a picture of how many different backgrounds and teams, and they need to come together to make just a data center work and run. And so you have in the technician side, you have a lot of folks with mechanical background. They need to know, okay, our cooling system is not working. What's happening? I think for me, the coolest room in the data center is the control room. So you see, it's like a air control traffic room. You see kind of alarms and stuff coming from every part of the data center. So you see if your cooling is working, if your power system is working, how are your machines, if the machine is down. And so networking would be part of it, from that more on the connectivity, but you have electrical folks, mechanical folks, you have operation folks. You may have even environmental health and safety folks, because a lot of these are pretty critical on the safety factor. Don't want people to get hurt. And then you have the site reliability engineers. You have the operation. So yeah, a lot of folks with different backgrounds need to come together and work on a very close kind of step-by-step together, so something doesn't break.
Ironically, the acronym for the control center tends to still be NOC, which is Network Operations Center. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the exact same thing as network engineering, but it's definitely close. They're definitely related. There's a question about how we can find out about internships, and there's no doubt that the best way for us to kind of funnel that is by reaching out to us at the Nomad Futurist for additional information, and then we can help do that. Nomadfuturist.org is the website. I think there's a contact form there that you can easily sign up and make that happen. I see a hand. Is that hand new? Is there another question?
And there's also a question of, is this like a supercomputer? Where are data stored and how are they connected?
I guess I'll start, which is a supercomputer is just a phrase given to a computer that has significant processing. A supercomputer lives inside of a data center. So the short answer is there are certainly similarities there. The data is stored on data storage hardware. I hate to answer a question with the same word that's used in the posing of the question, but typically there's networking components to a particular deployment. There's compute components, which is processing power, and there's data storage, which are hard drives of various speeds. You might have heard the phrase solid state disks, which is SSD. There's some other all sorts of awesome technologies that are out there, and you can imagine that data sets continue to grow, which is why data inevitably is one of the driving factors to the growth of data centers, because you need more space to continue to support that data. At the risk of making John huff and puff, John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, it's exactly right. I mean, essentially what happens in data centers is supercompute. I mean, especially when you're talking about AI these days and what they're doing, the type of GPUs that they're deploying, in every sense of the word, they would be considered supercomputers.
I think in 2007, when the iPhone came out, the iPhone that we have today would be considered a supercomputer.
It's certainly more powerful than the original, big blue IBM machines. But yeah, just so what what we're looking at now, another component of a data center, power is critical, obviously, and it being up all the time is essential. Inside of these containers are generators. They're massive diesel engines. They range out here from 1.5 megawatts up to 3 megawatts. And I think we have 12 of them on site now. We're clearing some land for some more. So we have these big giant machines that cost us millions of dollars that we hope we never have to turn on because we want our utility power to continue to be the primary source of power for this site. But you have to operate and maintain these just to be able to check a box that says you have a data center that is qualified to meet the requirements of every data center customer out there today, which means it has backup power. And we can get into all the different levels of backup power, but this is a critical element of it. And we have people that need to maintain these. So really almost like traditional mechanics that know how to work on diesel engines are here to test these things monthly, full quarterly tests, changing oil, full load bank tests once a year. So just another element of a data center that needs to be maintained and kept in proper working condition.
Just giant engines. There's a question that came in: would having a data science degree and data science skills be usable in a data center? The short answer to me is yes. First of all, every skill set is usable in a data center because we need all your help. Certainly, data science is big because of AI and all that stuff. But there are so many data points that happen within a data center, from temperatures and power variations and voltages and all that. That understanding how to manipulate data, how to take in large sets of data and assist with creating more efficient operations within the data center is no doubt a skill set that is valuable. I will take by Indigo's nodding that she agrees.
I was just going to say, I don't think there's any wrong answer as far as a degree within the STEM field that would not be related, relevant, and needed in the data center industry. And you know what? Even on the other side, liberal arts, if you got a degree in public speaking, we can use you for communications because not all our engineers know how to speak.
Yeah, not all of our hosts know how to speak very well either. I'll take that. Is there a possibility, we get this type of question a lot, is there a possibility of making those big generators be powered with electric power rather than diesel? In general, I will defer to the smarter people on this panel, but I would say that electric power requires batteries, right? So given the size of those generators in general, replacing them with just batteries in the traditional sense is probably not logistically appropriate given the magnitude. But John, you have a thought?
Yeah, I mean, diesel generators are still the most common method of backing up data centers. Now, I imagine a question is being asked because of green initiatives and reducing carbon emissions.
Because these kids want you to leave them a world in which smog is not their form of oxygen, John.
And I 100% agree. I mean, first, so we use diesel generators to generate electricity in the event that we lose our primary source of electricity. And of course, we work with our utility providers who tend to be our primary source of energy, which I say tend to. I'll get into some trends that are happening right now and other solutions and technologies that we're looking at. But the utility companies themselves are looking at alternate uses of power generation, be them wind farms and solar. I think we're going to hear a lot more about nuclear. I know there's a stigma around nuclear, but it is, for all intents and purposes, clean and renewable as long as it's contained and maintained properly. It is maybe the cleanest source of energy out there right now. There's hydro, but there's also some other on-site power generation technologies that we're looking at that would be, you can use generators that burn natural gas, which has less emissions than diesel fuel generators. But there's also technology that uses natural gas and extracts hydrogen and converts the hydrogen into energy through a chemical reaction where the only byproduct is CO2. And that CO2 can actually be contained and then used for other sources, basically making your power generation zero emissions. I see RFIs and RFPs from customers all the time where one of the most important portions of them is, what are your efforts to go green and reduce carbon emissions? So we have to focus on that right now. We have this property here and another property in Pennsylvania where we're going to be building, where we're looking at the use of our natural gas on both sites to put in some alternate source of power generation that will be low to no carbon emissions. So
just to define those two phrases, those two references that John made: RFI, request for information; RFP, request for proposal. and that is when, you know, somebody reaches out to 1547 to John's team to try to, you know, give them their requirements in order to build something out.
One of the questions that came up is also, is digital infrastructure more related with the hardware part? And can quantum computing be integrated into data centers?
I love these questions and keep them coming fast and furious. Is the digital infrastructure more related with the hardware part? Look, I think, you know, computer hardware lives inside data centers, right? That does all the processing. The word hardware is pretty broad in general. So if you're referring to computer hardware or networking hardware, all of that stuff lives in data centers of various sizes. Obviously, there's a lot of hardware being used to construct and build these sites as well. Anybody have any thoughts on that particular question? Digital infrastructure.
I would say that what we would refer to as the IT hardware component of a data center deployment are the servers where the data actually lives. What I think most of us here on this call focus on, and what my company focuses on, is the physical infrastructure that includes the mechanical and the electrical and the space. Mechanical typically means I'm referring to the cooling and the airflow and cooling distribution in the facility. That technology is changing all the time too, which is why we need new, bright, young minds to figure out the next best alternative solutions to traditional air cooled, which have limitations on, you know, how much you can cool in a single cabinet. But anyway, the IT portion, the actual hardware that goes into the cabinet, is absolutely part of the digital infrastructure.
And on the question of, would quantum computing be integrated into data centers? You know, yeah, I mean, I think in general, quantum computing is it's a big topic. I think, you know, it has the potential, no doubt, to be significantly more powerful than our current kind of, you know, computing infrastructure. And there is no doubt, given the prevalence of data centers and that being where information is exchanged, that's where data centers will have to, you know, move to. But I think the infrastructure is different enough where it's going to take some time for us to be able to support that. But smart staff, I'm staff.
Yeah.
Nobody works for me. Smart panel.
Quantum compute, should they figure out how to reduce the error rate and make it actually work, which I would predict that quantum compute is going to be a solution that's going to leapfrog we typically see server capacity double every time the next generation comes out. Quantum compute has the potential to have a 20-fold increase in compute capacity. The requirements to run a quantum compute environment are more stringent than that of a regular data center. I say regular data center environment. The environments that are requiring us to have, you know, the 10, 20, 40 kW per cabinet environment, they're going to run much more dense, and they actually require a whole different level of cooling, where they have to take traditional cooling, install additional equipment to run the actual quantum elements at an absolute zero, which I'm going to get out of my depth pretty quick if I talk much more about it. But the point being is they need to be in places like data centers where there is the network connectivity and environments where they can operate safely and provide some levels of cooling, electrical distribution, and also seismic ratings are different. They're required to operate in environments that are very seismically sound. So,
given the fact that I can't pronounce Anahita's degree, I think Anahita might allow you to get past your depth. Anahita.
No, I didn't want to go to that much of a detail, but I think for the audience here, with kind of being already in college and what you're going to be getting into, you're much closer to the machine learning AI boom, maybe than what we would predict in the futuristic on the quantum computing. Within the next decade, I think most of our focus really will be on really just enabling and meeting the demand for AI. Quantum computing has been more of a, for now, still really theoretical, and the application side of it, I think is far in the future. On how
you guys are going to be the ones on this panel talking to the next generation about quantum computing in the data centers. We have a in-person question from our friend up there. Please.
Hey, thank you. Here we go.
Hi. So my question is, what is the difference between today's data center and, say, those machine rooms that IBM had back then, and say the server rooms that we have maybe 10 years ago?
I'll start by just saying I think the primary difference is power density. And, to a certain extent, from a networking perspective, a lot of those original rooms from 10 or even 5 years ago were from a networking standpoint focused more on copper, where now the primary driver, copper is being phased out, notwithstanding the fact that it almost fell on the head of one of your teachers. It's all moving to fiber based because of the amount of data that's moving along. But panel, what do you think? What changed in the data center in the last 5 or 10 years?
I think a lot of, the technology obviously is much, much different and much more efficient. You have a rack, just one rack that could potentially support a good part of your city. And then you will have many cities that one data center would support. So just the scale of what has grown from the power is astronomical. And then we have had amazing changes in how different sources of how we are kind of getting that power. That has also, there are a lot of technological innovation from different sources of power, different types of cooling. You have really for like an on-the-chip cool to enable a lot of high compute chips that you see these days to different types of cooling. And Phil, you talked about nuclear. So the amount of technology innovation that we have seen within the past even 5 years have been quite amazing. And it's going to need to continue grow to really meet the demand of what.
And it's all because you guys won't stop with the TikTok. Just stop, and then we'll be able to like relax for a second. My God. Did that answer your question in terms of changes?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
What do we
So
got?
one of the questions that did come up was, will we run out of space for data centers someday?
Yeah, I'll start by saying we will probably run out of power before we run out of space. It's not necessarily a space conversation. If you look at the biggest data center market in the United States is in Northern Virginia. And the way you gauge it is not by, number of acres or square feet. The way you gauge it is by number of megawatts, in production or in the pipeline. And I think we're at, if I'm not mistaken, something like 2,300 megawatts in the Northern Virginia market, which has, brought the kind of power infrastructure into focus as, whether that can support the natural resources that it takes, to maintain data centers. But again, I'm just a moderator. Guys, what do you think? John, you build these things for a living.
Will we run out of space? I think you said exactly what I would have said at first. My first reaction is we'd run out of power first. But, everything in the past, now it's 21 years since I'm in this industry, has sort of stayed in balance while, obviously the need for space and power has continued to grow. But what has helped things stay somewhat in balance is by the advancement of the technology that goes into the data center. You talked about the connectivity facilities like the one I started in. If we look back at how connectivity started to flow through these data centers, it was happening on a cross connect that was copper, and it was about 1.5 megabits at a time. 1.5 megabits. Now, your average cross connection is maybe 100 gig or now even 400 gig of traffic flowing through. And unbelievably, the number of actual physical cross connections, despite the capacity of those connections growing. How many times more capacity is there on 400 gig versus 1.5 meg? I'm not smart enough to do that math quick, but it's thousands times more powerful in terms of
exponential
capacity. Exponential. It's exponentially larger. There's still as many physical cross connections happening in facilities like this and in the carrier hotels like 60 Hudson I was referring to earlier. And the same kind of goes for the power density. Some of what has changed in the data center space is when I first started here, our customers on average were drawing less than 1 kW per cabinet, and now they're demanding a minimum of 20 to 40 kW per cabinet.
Now they're drawing 1 kW per inch.
Yes, exactly. It is per inch. And we're looking at designs or alternative types of cooling solutions to get us to 100 kW per cabinet. There's some other immersion technology which we won't even get into here, but the capacity of the equipment coming in is helping to contain and maintain the amount of space required to put. So you don't run out of space is what I'm getting at. Now we see that consumption is outpacing and demand for space and power is outpacing our ability to keep up with it. But you go back to the earlier question about quantum, that may help balance things again in the future. You know, and I was on a panel a few years ago. It was when, I think it was when 4G was first coming out. And what is everybody going to use all this 4G capacity for? And I laughed at anybody who said that they knew, because nobody knows. You know, you have to see what the next app that's coming out is, the next thing that you didn't know that you needed. You know, when I first downloaded the ESPN app to my phone years ago, it was just a flat list of scores. Now you open it up and it's streaming video. That wasn't possible when it first came out, but it's possible now because of the throughput technology, not only on the servers that are hosting the equipment, I'm sorry, the data, but the network technology that runs to and through these data centers and out to the cell towers and out to your phones and your TVs and your computers and whatever else. So
I'm going to help paraphrase the answer to the question. Will we run out of space for data centers someday? No.
no,
Is there another question?
Yeah. So we have a student who has had 15 years of commercial construction experience. What kind of degree could he pursue to enable him to get jobs in the data centers with experience that's not just doing hands-on construction? So again, goes back to what types of experiences, degrees can you have or should you get in order to get into the space?
I'm not necessarily of the mind that there is a specific degree needed, frankly, depending on where you want to go. I would always say business degrees are valuable just in terms of, you know, being able to understand the overall picture. And, you know, I'm a big fan of understanding the, you know, kind of 30,000-foot view and then understanding how all of the bits and pieces work. And business tends to be a good degree. My degree is in systems engineering, which is like too dumb to understand one particular type of engineering, but understanding a little bit of all of them so you understand how they fit together. But, you know, big picture type things I think are valuable. But personal opinion, guys, panel, anything?
I would say you first have to think about what it is that you actually want to do and then decide that you want to do it within the data center space. And what I mean by that is, do you want to be on the business side? Do you want to go into sales or marketing or business development or finance? Because then you would need a traditional business degree in order to qualify for that part of the business and then decide, I want to do this in the data center space. If you want to work in the data center space and you're studying accounting, get an internship with the accounting department of a data center company. And that's places where Nomad Futurist, myself, we can all help with connections. We might have some opportunities here directly. Now, if you're in construction and you want to evolve that into something where you're not doing the physical work, I would say engineering, design, mechanical, electrical. That's the stuff that you might want to study. So then you can just evolve that into a position where you're designing these spaces and, you know, telling somebody else how to physically build it.
Anahita, Indigo, any thoughts?
We have a lot of
Piggybacking
program managers that we call everyone program manager, but everyone would do a different thing. So we have a lot of folks with construction background that they are managing projects or managing portfolios, and I'm not sure necessarily what would be their background, but that the construction of knowledge would help them to manage the projects and programs. So that would be another kind of avenue to think about.
I was going to say that I consider project management not just a career, but a mindset and a lifestyle. So you can kind of apply that across any space, you know. As you know, with construction, you know, there's always a recipe of how to build a building. And you can take that same kind of discipline and apply that in different fields in the data center industry. So I think the easiest crossover skill or crossover field would definitely be in engineering with your hands-on experience that you've had in construction. And you can then probably build that if you want to go business into more of the operations management of the data centers. Or, you know, jump all together and go into accounting. We need everyone.
Can I just say that I've never experienced such acute fear as when Jody fell off the Zoom for a second. Is there another question coming from that section, or is it the one that's in here? I see a hand up in a little box. I will say no. Okay, we have a question in the Zoom. That is, are there any specialized software engineers or IT specialists that manage on-site servers dedicated to AI for processing and analyzing information? Or is there a connection to AI used off-site for automating various things? Someone smarter than me, answer, please.
I can talk about how we manage, at least at Google. So we have on the site level, you have the site reliability engineers that they are all coming from the software background. And they really tackle on if there's from the machines rack server, if there's an issue, how do you back up that information? How do you make sure there's not a availability impact on the data from or impact to the customer? So those are really site level. But then the data itself, kind of optimizing all of those are managed more on a central manner. So you don't necessarily first, you may not even know what machine, what server is managing who customer. So there are a lot of security reasons for that. So everything is kind of encrypted and backed up in a more central fashion. And then those would be more off-site, if you will, software engineer and support teams that will make sure that the data is automated, encrypted, managed, all of that. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think there's also one point that we should make, which might not be clear. So, we're not going to get into every different type of data center. Google is in a unique position because they manage data centers for their own massive, farms of compute resources and systems, et cetera. So they definitely have, a bunch of, AI machinery that's helping, manage their gigantic platform. Can't overstate the size. If I knew what one with 100 zeros was, I'd say the number, but it's a Google. It's a Google of stuff. But in many cases, whether it's John's facilities or even smaller facilities, a lot of companies leverage what John mentioned as the word co-location, which is essentially the outsourcing of the physical infrastructure associated with the data center. That's, the management of the space, the cooling, the critical power, all of those things. And their businesses rely upon the hardware that's deployed within the data center. So I think that there's a ton of customers of data centers that leverage data centers that have, the on-site, software engineers that are managing the hardware, whether it be AI or more traditional compute hardware. And maybe they're relying upon the data centers to a certain extent for what we call remote hands, which is making sure that someone who is there 24/7 that works for the data center that has, secure access to the facility can assist with, something as mundane as just rebooting a server to, doing, additional work for them. But it runs the full gamut, and sometimes those roles that you were talking about in the question might be the customer of a data center as opposed to the data center themselves. Lots of words. Is there another question from there, or is that just a high five? I'm happy to high five back.
No, I think, I think we're also running short on time now because I think some people have to go to class. But as kind of a takeaway for the whole group, maybe all of you can share with everyone, we're talking about the growth and everything that's important about this industry, but what was your light bulb moment where you realized, oh, wow, this industry is A, not going anywhere, and B, we need more people because this is so important that we can't just this industry has historically just been behind this curtain, behind the scenes. And I think we're getting to that point where it isn't going to be anymore. So what was your light bulb moment of how important this industry is?
I'll start with Indigo as the most recent entry into our industry and putting you on the spot. Why should we always be on the spot?
All right. So I feel like the chant "one of us" started playing once I actually joined the data center industry. But I would say it really fell into my lap, to be completely transparent. A few technical recruiters reached out to me and saw that my skill set of being from mission critical and being mechanical MEP specialized was something that was critically needed in this industry. And I will say, once I actually decided to just give it a shot, the light bulb immediately came on. So I guess it was once I actually gave it a shot, read the job description, and really just took a second to see what is all the hullabaloo over data center. Because just like everyone is known these days, I thought it was just this big box, or being a little humble here, didn't think I was smart enough for it, and actually finding out that no, that there is a place for people like myself, that are still new to the industry, and you really can find your way here. And there is definitely a skill moment for you.
Gosh, I just want everyone to look up at home the word hullabaloo. It hasn't been used since 1943. And Indigo just brought it back into style. Any
Hey,
thoughts?
I am a Scrabble champion.
You're
Okay,
right.
give me the
Hullabaloo. I
Scrabble
mean,
word.
is that a triple word score? I mean, probably times 3. Anahita, do you have any thoughts on your light bulb moment?
Yeah, I was really surprised that for my own lack of understanding of what the digital infrastructure, technical infrastructure industry is, because I thought I touched everything. And so I was in 1 week, I got a call from the UT, United Technologies. They make kind of Airbus, some of the parts for them. I was about to go to that company. I had no idea what is data center. When Google called me, they said, we really want to bring you on with your background. I was really asking why, like what is my background and experience got anything to do with what you guys are doing? So I think the amount of what I didn't know was really surprising. And since I joined, I would say challenge me, name one background from education that I haven't worked with. I bet you I cannot name one. I work with folks coming from working with White House chief of staff type political science background to sales marketing to any engineering degree. So I don't think there's any degree that I haven't seen works very successfully in the data center realm. It's a really matter of kind of connecting the dots and see how can I get in? How can I find programs to connect me? So that to me was really fascinating part of it. And the rate of growth, again, I emphasize that you will not see any industry that is exponentially growing as we are. And also the last part of it, if you love traveling, I think a lot of functions in data center will enable you to travel quite a lot. So that's also another bonus things in there that look into that.
Sometimes we're not just trapped in this little box. Amazing. John, light bulb moment. When did you know?
You know, I don't know that I have a specific light bulb moment. I never really thought about it that way, but there I have a couple of examples of customer applications that sort of came to us and made very apparent the importance of what we were doing. Initially, it was financial high frequency trading applications back in the middle 2000 in O's, where we had trading firms, high frequency trading firms, come to us and looking to put servers, high dense servers into our telco interconnection areas. And they wanted that because they were the crossroads of the data. And they would get the fastest access to market data by sitting on top of the network. And then that application started to grow. And then when you look at things like one of my favorite examples to use in this industry is Netflix. Because Netflix, I don't know if anybody in the actual audience here is old enough to remember Netflix's original model. Actually, it wasn't really their model, but the way they started was by sending DVDs to your home. So you would subscribe to Netflix, put your list of movies that you wanted to watch together, and they would mail them to your house, and you would they would self-return envelope. When you're done watching one, you put one in the mail, you get another one automatically. They really just did that to capture market share, because they had the foresight to build a model that wasn't even possible to deliver yet, because they weren't able to put all of their data into data centers at the time, and there wasn't enough bandwidth to your home to deliver Netflix to your TV, let alone to a phone. They were ahead of their own model, but they knew it was coming. And now applications like Netflix and everything else that we do cannot exist without it. What we're doing right now over this call and talking to each other from different parts of this country cannot exist without data centers. And name me one thing that you do today on any device that can happen without a data center. And that's only growing exponentially. So it was probably several moments for me that really validated the space I was in. And the validation just continues today. I think you're muted.
I know. I get it. I get
Sorry.
it. I'm muted.
I was just trying to help.
It's something you should learn, kids. When you're on endless Zoom calls, you will sometimes speak while being muted, and someone is going to call you out on it immediately and really be proud of themselves for it. So thanks, John, for that.
You're welcome.
I will say this, I started in this industry incredibly young. I was 17 years old when I started my first company, and for me, it was really, I had a computer growing up, and that computer was used in large part to make greeting cards. That was the exciting thing. There was some software program that I used where you could, fold 4 ways a piece of paper, and I could make my mother like a birthday card. That was the extent to which I used it. I wasn't really a gamer. I wasn't as cool as John playing Pong in 1983. So when AOL, which was like the original kind of internet service provider, sent a CD to my house, much the way Netflix sent, although I will say, thank goodness they didn't get sold to Blockbuster, which almost happened. And you kids probably don't know what Blockbuster is, but it ain't fun. It essentially, it opened up this world of communication that I had no idea existed. And that interactivity, that kind of dynamic experience coming from what was a very static device just fascinated me. And I knew I wanted to do it. Whatever it was, I didn't really know what it was, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it. And then, yada, yada, yada. Now I'm bold and talking to you guys. Is there a question from the from the audience?
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering, so I tried going onto the foundation website, and so to get in contact with you guys, should we join your website or should we like directly contact you?
It's a great question. QA on our website, like on the fly,
That's a
real
great
time.
question. Well, so Sophia and Yvette both have a direct line to us. So I think the best way moving forward, just because there's a big group of you, is if you are interested in learning more, you want to connect more with the panelists, and go on a data center tour, for example. That's something we can help arrange. So just maybe Sophia and Yvette, they can you can give us their emails. And then of course everyone can be looked up on LinkedIn as well. And yes, just so to add to that, one of the things that we do want to do next, for those of you that are interested, that want to learn more, is to take you on a data center tour in the Bay Area.
Non-Zoom, outside of this little box. Amazing. I might not exist. I might be AI right now. You'll never, no.
You never know.
There's life outside the matrix, Phil.
There is. We'll see.
We would love to have a tour. This is one of our MESA ambassadors, Brian.
Hello.
So, he's in charge of planning events. And so we would love to have a tour. That would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. Connect with us. Look us up on LinkedIn. Do it all. Like my selfies.
The king of the trade show selfie.
You got the trade show selfie. I do it for the children. For the children.
But we do have a data center in Hawaii. So should we plan for the tour in Kapolei?
All of a sudden, Joe is speaking. I don't know how he's part of this panel.
I think if Joe, if 1547 is willing to fly all these students to Kapolei, I'm sure the MESA ambassador would be more than happy to introduce that. Look, I'm seeing head nodding. So yes, what a fantastic offer from 1547. First class tickets to Kapolei, Hawaii.
Yeah, and the directors too. And the program coordinators.
Exactly.
And the panelists. I mean, my God, you
Everyone's
guys came.
included.
But you know what? I think it's important to talk about, Phil's selfies, right? Not because he takes a lot of selfies, but he does them at trade shows. And trade shows are still a big, important part of what we do. And that's honestly where I noticed first that I was no longer the young person in the industry, because I was when I first started going to these trade shows. And now there's only a few young people around, and the folks that were the young people are now kind of still the young people, and it's no good. But the point I'm making though is that the relationships that we have and maintain and continue to use to grow this business are fostered at these events that we go to, and we still get together in person. So as much technology as there is around us, and even as much as there is of this in terms of Zoom and Teams and whatever other applications we use to communicate, to me, there's still no replacement for in-person communication. And we do a significant amount of business by just nurturing the relationships that we have with people in this industry by seeing them in person and taking advantage of the events that we go to. And one of them is in Hawaii that we just went to a couple of weeks ago.
John clearly read my last LinkedIn post.
I did. I see all your pictures. I'm in one of them at least. I was very happy to make your wall.
Yeah.
So I know we've lost all but one student here. I know there's a 1 o'clock class schedule, at least we have, and I think Deanza also has lost quite a few. I was thinking maybe we could wrap up. So I don't know if you all have any final parting thoughts. All of our students, you know, are in different stages in their college lives. Some are headed for transfer, some are just going with the AA degree. Some are coming back to school from many years doing other things. So just any final words of wisdom, advice, career path related.
I can start, but what I would say is don't be afraid to reach out. No matter how, I mean, Indigo really, you know, she didn't think she fit into this industry. John fell into it by accident. Anahita, probably the smartest person on the planet, didn't even know this industry existed. And you know, at the end of the day, don't be afraid to reach out, and don't think that your experience or lack of experience is an impediment. It's not. Your lived experience is what we need. Your exposure, your understanding of how technology works and how people use technology is something we couldn't possibly know, because it's entirely unique to you, like a snowflake. So I think, you know, all the kids that you know, kind of are hearing about this industry, if there's only one left in the classroom, it's worth all of this effort, because we need your lived experience. So please join us. Join us. Sounds weird, but yeah.
Yes.
Come on in. It's fun.
It is fun.
Final thoughts, Jody, panel.
Well, I'm just excited to be able to do this with you. And, you know, like we've talked about during the panel, is everyone kind of falls into this industry, and we're looking to you guys to lead us into a more sustainable future. So if you're interested, let us know. We want to help foster that relationship with this industry for you.
And Joe will fly to Hawaii.
Honestly, for me, I'm really passionate to really help mentor folks and help them answer questions. And so I think one of the things that's the reason I'm here is that to help make sure connect the bridge between industry and you folks. So reach out, connect, and not only for us, anybody else. I think I heard a number 300,000 short resources within the next few years. So we are really short on the skill that we need. And connect as many people. Everyone is really open. They want to help. And if they can't really have answer for what you're looking for, I'm sure they know somebody that will connect you to. So don't feel shy to reach out. And yeah, on LinkedIn, feel free to connect with any of us. Happy to answer your questions there as well.
I guess my final thoughts would be, if anyone's familiar with the game 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, that's how this industry feels, because you never know who you know, but they will always know somebody that's in the data center industry. That's how tight-knit it is. So honestly, reach out. We can talk to anybody that knows somebody that knows the answer to your question and can at least point you in the right direction. So really, feel free to reach out to us anytime.
John, final thoughts?
Yeah, and that's such a great point, the 7 degrees, because we know in this industry it's much fewer than 7. And, you know, as I really think about what it takes to be in an industry like this, you know, I hire people and, you know, work with people who hire people. And to us, some of the most important stuff is that you're a great cultural fit for our company. And there's no real secret to our company. We like to hire people that are good, smart, hardworking human beings that like to work with other people. And to me, those are the more important qualifications than all of the knowledge that you might have. So get into and start working at a company in this industry through an internship or some entry-level position, and be a good, smart, hardworking human being, and you will succeed.
Mic drop if I've ever heard one. Thank you, guys.
Just want to thank you all so much. Jody, thank you for partnering with us on this and bringing such a wonderful panel together. Phil, to you and your colleague for starting Nomad Futurist Foundation. We're really excited to continue to work with you. Yvette, you want to say a final few words?
Yeah, thank you again so much. It was such an inspirational story. I appreciate everybody here. Really loved it. And I'm sure our students loved it too. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Thanks,
all
guys.
so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.